Welcome, everyone. This is Pineleaf Needles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Andang,
Hey, everybody.
Etharos,
Yes.
Draculeta,
Greetings, everyone.
Sithrith,
Hello.
and Braxwell.
Hello, Lotro.
And
That dramatic pause.
yes, we'll begin this week's show with a special announcement in that Sithrith and Etharos have decided that with the work that they are doing on Guild Wars Players News, that they would like to concentrate their efforts there, and therefore, unfortunately, they will be leaving our show. So if you want to listen to them in the future, you'll need to go over to one of our sister broadcasts, Guild Wars Players 2. And Eltheros, would you have any comments on this?
Yeah, I guess I kind of felt that over the past few months, really, my sort of passion for the game had been dwindling quite a bit. And it's kind of seeped into my performance on the podcast, from what I've noticed, and has been kind of being brought to light recently. And I just kind of feel like that if I don't care about the game, then I don't really care about what I'm saying when I'm talking about it. Which, frankly, I don't think is fair on, firstly, the people I'm talking to about it and the people who are listening to the podcast. So I think it's better for me to kind of go to something I enjoy more before I become kind of resentful and that kind of person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's-
I thought it was really hit on the nail on the head there. I feel like as long as I've been playing, you always see the people on the forums that don't seem to actually play the game anymore, but they're like sucked into using the forums all the time anyway, and they just keep talking about the game even though they don't play it anymore, and they get really negative about it. And I never want to be that person, so before I go from apathetic to negative, I think it's time to, just go focus on something that I am actually really passionate about right now, and that's Guild Wars 2. So, yeah, you can still come listen to us there, and it'll be fun.
All right, very well. Then let's go on to our game news for this week, and there is a great deal of game news since they have come back from vacation with a vengeance. And we'll begin with the hotfix for update 15.1.2, which involved taking care of an exploit by adding minimum levels to the various reputation items. I believe we discussed that recently. Did we discuss that on the show last week, or was that a different discussion?
I don't remember.
That was a whole
All
week
right.
ago.
Yeah, it's a whole week ago. I can't forget. Anyway, on 15.1.2, there was a hot fix. The idea is they're putting minimum levels on the reputation items with the idea of that people were using it in order to get very fast turbine points, get rid of a character, and create a new character just for doing that. And of course, that was a bit of an exploit on there, so they put on minimum levels there. I'm not too sure I like the minimum level they put on the Mathams, though, because I'm getting Mathams off of level 29 mobs right now on my Bjorning, and if I'm giving them off of 29 mobs, I would think that I should be able to use them at level 30 instead of waiting until I'm level 35, but that's just my opinion.
Gotta wait, Pineleaf.
Gotta wait, I guess. All right, those hobbits, they just don't trust those bears.
Be patient.
All right, Greg,
I
do
saw
have
what you
any-
did there, Brex.
And I saw what you did there, Pineleaf.
I didn't see anything.
Drac, do you have any further comments on this?
No, you pretty much covered it. That's the biggest, I think, contention to this whole thing is everything they are doing with the reputation items. And I know the one I've heard most about is the Mathams. That's the one that a lot of people are kind of scratching their heads about.
Right. Well, the gift Mathams, I do see that they at least lowered them. I think that's the reason why they needed a hot fix, because I think originally the gift Mathams when they tried to implement it before, the Githmabs were also at 35 or 40, and that was like ridiculous. Then you start getting them at level 8.
But the thing that I don't quite understand is when they first announced that they kind of quietly ninja did this, people got up in arms because there was no discussion, and then they said, "Okay, we'll roll it back, and then we'll discuss it." Well, I don't remember having any discussions on this, and then all of a sudden we have this hot fix, and this fix is implemented in the game. So what happened to the player discussion and the player feedback on this? Is my big question, but.
Who needs
Well-
player feedback, Drac? Come on. Don't be silly.
Well, I don't remember what the exact quote on that matter was.
Probably not that. That's.
All right, very well. Let's head on to the other major announcement, and that is that there is a new executive producer for LOTRO, and the new executive producer is Athena. That's, I know everyone else is calling her Athena Peters is her name, and I keep on forgetting her Vivienne or something like that.
Vivian, yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
Vivian.
Vivienne. It's a lot easier for me to remember Athena because that sounds like a much easier name. And I'm surprised she doesn't use Athena as her.
They're not
That's
allowed
what I
to.
thought. Like,
At
It sounds-
Turbine, there was an interview with Sapiens a while back, and at Turbine, they require you to come up with a name that you have never used anywhere else before, and that has to be your dev name.
Well,
It's a little bit different when you're executive producer because they're the only ones that are allowed to actually share their real name, I guess, unless it's found out by players like it was with Sapiens. And so it's a little different for them, but yeah, it is a little bit easier to pronounce Athena than Vivian because of the way it's spelled.
yes. And Athena just sounds like a name that fits a lot better than Vivienne, I think.
I don't know
Well,
what that
that's the
means,
thing, like-
Pineleaf, but okay.
I kind of get what he's saying. Like, I think like Athena sounds like a game name, and Vivienne sounds like a real name.
Yes, I know. That's the thing that's strange.
All right, well, if we're done mocking the developer's name or trying to
All right,
It's
dissect
not
it.
mocking.
Let's-
It's just
Yeah, I know it's not, but anyway.
All right. Let's go into the producer's letter then. Brax,
Yes.
you posted the article.
Okay, I'm not sure how much of this I'm supposed to go into since we are going
Just
to.
just cover the highlights, and Pineleaf, if you have any feedback, feel free to interrupt Brax while he goes over them.
Yeah, feel free, Pine Leaf. Anytime you want to jump right in.
You want me to read it?
Well, hang on, because I clicked on the wrong link. But suffice it to say, there are several changes coming to LOTRO this year, at least several major initiatives that have been announced by new executive producer Athena Peters. And again, no promises that all of these things will come to fruition. In fact, some of them were presented in a way to make us think that they're still kind of in the discussion phase. The high points, legendary items, as we already knew, are going to be imbued at level 100. New fellowship challenges is a second initiative she announced where they specifically called out in a subsequent post things like 3 and 6 man instances. So there's going to be an instance cluster released later in the year. I think they even said that was going to be with Osgiliath, didn't they? Or plan to
Yep.
come out with Osgiliath? Okay.
Yes. And I should note on there that in addition to this, they're talking about roving threats in there. There was a sneak peek of that earlier when they released 15.1 and showed a few of them a little bit early.
Right, yes. In Angmar, right?
Yeah, in Angmar.
Third initiative, quality of life improvements. This feels like a filler bullet to me because I would hope they would be doing this no matter what your initiatives for the year were.
Oh, this relates to a post they made a few weeks back where they were soliciting players to submit their most persistent and nagging bugs that they have been dealing with for the years, and they've been collecting this. So that's the reason for this, is that there is a specific one to find these, because if they've been persistent, it means that they've been falling to the bottom of the priority list all this time. So they're trying to bump those type of annoying bugs up higher into the priority list so they can actually get them done.
Right. They're asking for help from the players in prioritizing those.
Yep.
Episodic content was the fourth initiative announced, and we're not exactly sure what this means. This is kind of a mysterious one. Just to read it real quick, we are currently in development on a new type of quest content that will roll out like an episodic TV show, a little at a time, as you follow a new friend across Middle-earth, seeing familiar places in a new light. So it sounds like we'll be going back over some of the older landscape parts of Middle-earth for this part. Next one, possibly the most contentious, server populations is something that they're going to be concentrating on. And we'll have, I think, more detail on this in a later story. But in the executive producer's letter, they basically said they focused on three things: improved server transfer tools, upgrades to environments to improve playability, and moving the EU servers back to Europe. So the European player servers, moving them back to Europe where they started when they were with Codemasters, but still under Turbine's management.
Which they found later that might not be possible. Just like to clarify that right away.
Right, yes. Now, one of the things that they also hinted at is that they may be moving the North American servers to a more central part of North America, because right now they're in Boston, and Boston is the northeastmost major city in the United States.
Right.
So and in order to get anywhere from Boston, you have to go through one of the most massive megalopolises that exists in order to get through anywhere. So therefore, it's a lot of troubles that they've had over the years with traffic. Sometimes they will lose something because one person from another company that they're not directly connected with decided to reroute something, and people all over the country aren't able to get the stuff from Turbine because there's only one route to go through and they just cut it off.
Right. There's a lot of data centers in Chicago.
But Pineleaf might not be able to say server time anymore. That could be a problem.
That's a good point. Will they keep it server time?
How could Pineleaf sleep at night?
Well, we'll have to see what they do.
It would be Turbine time, though, still. So.
It still would be Boston time, probably.
Maybe. It depends on some things, but probably.
The last initiative that was spoken of in the producer's letter was a possible new PVMP map in the Osgiliath region.
The carrot gets dangled again.
There it is. Just laying it all out there.
And when they say that, the plan on that is that will not be part of update 16, but then I believe the next point update after that or something like that is if it does happen, it'll be not immediately with 16. Because first they want to build Osgiliath before they try to get the PvP version of it.
For me personally, I'd be fine if this doesn't come out till the time with Minas Tirith, if it doesn't come out till a year from now. Just give us this new PvP map that you dangled in front of us. I'm fine waiting however long is necessary, as long as you guys get it done and get it done right. I think that they need to spend a ton of time working on this map because you can change it a little bit after the fact, but you don't want to do a whole map revamp just after you release the map. So make sure you get it done right and release it when it's done.
And I'm given the impression that if they do get this done, it's intended to be a tighter map than the Moors are. So it has a different feel to it because there has to be a reason to go to each of them. Having a different feel would be a reason to go to one or the other.
Right, it might feel more like a modern first-person shooter map than a open-world MMO map is what it kind of sounds like.
It'll be more. Well, since most first-person shooters tend to be on urban-style environments, this very definitely be an urban map.
Anything to add, Atheros? You started to say something, I thought.
No, I didn't.
Oh, well, never mind.
Yeah, that was pretty much it for as far as the content in the letter, anyway.
Right. And a note on the instances, they're intended to be 3 and 6 player fellowship traditional instances, instance cluster, but no big battles and no raids. So that's the situation with that. So therefore, let us go on to one of the next item on there, and that is that there will be no level cap increased for 2015.
Yes, Pineleaf, there is no level cap scheduled for 2015, as Vivian did say in a follow-up post on the forums. And she said, quote, level cap increases not in the cards for this year. So no explanation really why, just not gonna happen.
Well, I know that there were a lot of people begging last year saying, let's hold at 100 for a while because.
Yes, but that was because of the LI thing, and if they can get that updated, there's no reason why we can't at the very least have it at the time of Minas Tirith, you know, when that update comes out, have a level cap increase unless there's just not enough content with that first
Well,
part of Minas
either
Tirith.
that or I know a lot of people were complaining about the odd numbers that we've been having for the last few, ever since Mirkwood.
I just need my character to have a goal. I don't I don't care about armor, and I know that, you know, a lot of players do, but you know, armor's not gonna bother me, all that other stuff. I just want levels. And my
Right.
main problem here is, you know, they've already neglected the armor player base for a while, though it probably will get fixed with Osgiliath. We don't know for sure though if there's new armor coming, but I'd assume that there is for raiders and that type of thing. You know, they've neglected so many player bases. The level increase is one of the few that they haven't, and the fact that it's going to be, assuming that they don't have a level cap increase all of 2015, it would be about 2 years since we had a level increase until, you know, the next update, and that's going to be a long, long time. And for players who really value levels increasing, it's really sad to see this be the case. You know, it's not my main motivation. The story definitely is, but it's nice to have that level. And whenever I'm in in an area of content and I'm not getting that level increase, I'm always thinking if I really do want to do this content now, or if I want to wait until the level cap increases and then go through it. Which I actually did wait in an update past for the level cap to increase, just so I could gain XP. I think that was with Rise of Isengard is when I waited. Um, and then also there's the issue of alts. I personally don't want to buy the XP disabler, but I do like to do every single quest. And so that's a big conflict when you have multiple years of content without a level increase. And so for alts, this is going to be make the combat not very interesting when I'm doing it, you know, 10 levels higher, unless LOTRO never has another level cap increase, which would be even worse personally. So that's where I stand on it. I'm very opposed to no level cap increase, as you guys can probably tell. I did actually like that we didn't have one at the end of this last year, but it's time to move on. It's time to get more levels, I think.
All right then. Now the other clarification was actually is something that I pretty much had figured out before it was posted, but seemed to have surprised a couple of people, and that was that when they have all these encouraged transfers and trying to have an emphasis on the making it easier to get to higher population servers, that one of the reasons is that they want to eventually close some of the servers.
Yes, and I don't think this was too much of a surprise to anyone because of how vague you know, they kind of danced around this in the producer's letter. But thankfully they made a very quick follow-up post once they saw players were asking about it. And this is a quote from what they said. There will be no forced data merge from one server to another, or to combine two servers. When if players move, they will make the choice themselves on which of the available worlds they want to move each of their characters and account or kinships to. So that means if your server is closed, you can pick for each of your characters where you want them to go. It sounds like, which would be pretty nice. Obviously, this is still a ways out, so you know it could be edited, but that's kind of where they stand right now. And it continues on. Yes, we are likely to close a number of servers to play, but only after a large grace period, and even after that, the characters will remain available to be moved to another server to play on indefinitely. So that's kind of nice. After the server's closed, the characters, I guess, are still saved somewhere. We have an idea of the servers we will wish to keep and which to close, But that is a list not yet set in stone and may be subject to changes as we see the results of transfers and some of the hardware investigation we are doing. So, just based on that so far, what are your guys' thoughts? Brax, I know you had a lot of comments this week. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, on the surprise meter, I guess one of the reasons probably people were taken aback by this was because it's pretty much a 180 from what was said by Turbine all of last year, where they weren't looking at server closures at all. Every time it was asked in a live stream, we are not looking at server closures. Even dating back to when Sapiens was doing the live streams, and people would ask that. On the other hand, it's kind of not a surprise because that many people were asking about it. Obviously, something needed to be done. I think players are pretty perceptive, especially players on lower population servers. They're seeing people, they're seeing their kinmates not logging in. They're seeing nobody in the starter areas, and it's tough to play an MMO by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, it's not as much of a surprise. I guess as far as my thoughts on, first of all, I don't think they know how they're going to do this yet. It sounds like a lot of the stuff that they're talking about with the servers, they're still investigating and they're still in discussions about. We alluded to the EU move earlier on. That was one part of this. But what I guess one of the things I commented on in the post this week was the way I would like to see it done. I don't know if this is on the table for Turbine or if Warner Brothers would allow it, but what I would like to see them do is open up free transfers for everybody, kind of like which was my dream last week. But open it up for everybody and then give it a certain period of time before they reevaluate which servers should close, because at that point the people that have moved have chosen to move. They haven't been forced to move. And that will make it so that the population that is left is lower, the people that are actually forced to move due to a server closure. I think that would be less disruptive to your community to do it that way. I know it's going to be, in the short term, you're going to lose out on server transfer fees, but I think in the long run, you're going to generate more goodwill if you do it that way.
I agree with that to a point. I think it'd be good for them to, say that we'll look at it and change maybe, but say that, these are the servers we're almost sure we're going to close, and then maybe keep the maybes in that category, because I'd hate to transfer to a server and then just find out that that server is going to close.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. That is an absolute fair point. I think that's an unlikely scenario. I don't think people are going to be transferring to lower pop servers for the most part.
Well,
I doubt it as well.
Like lower pop servers.
Yeah, I doubt it as well. But if your kinship's moving and they say go to this server and people just blindly follow, it might happen. I mean, some people just choose their servers based on the name alone. So
yeah, I concede that point. That could be a problem, but I still would. I guess I would rather see it happen that way still.
Yeah, I would as well. I just wish that they would, at least announce at some point before they open that up which servers they're thinking about closing.
So I think if you do it the other way and you just say, okay, the people on the affected servers get free transfers, then there's probably people in other lower pop servers that were hoping for a transfer that are going to be stuck there on a lower pop server having to pay $20 or $25 a character, how much it is now. And that they're going to be like, forget this, I'm not playing this. I'm not playing this game anymore.
Well, see, and that brings up the good question: what is Turbine calling a lower pop server? Like, how is like, if server A has this many people and server B maybe has 10% more people, is server A going to be the one to go because there's less, but it's not that much less? I don't know where they're going to draw the line.
And I don't know if they know either. I think they know financially how many that they're wanting to close, probably. But I don't know if they know, it seems very not set in stone right now.
I know it's late in the game for them now, but what would solve this problem? Mega servers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, they're saying that they don't have the ability to do mega servers. She did post that they do not have the technology or the tools that will make that possible.
But they also said,
LOTRO, I believe it.
Yeah, what? I do as well. They also said though that they are planning to upgrade their servers.
Yeah, they're upgrading servers, so they'll be larger servers.
Exactly, and so they're not going to be mega servers, but they are going to be bigger servers. So we're closer to mega servers, but obviously it's not all one mega server.
Right.
And Vivian does, in another post, say that one of the things we are wrapping up currently is the ability to transfer account level items, such as Mithril, to another server. We want to get this ability out to you before we begin opening up and encouraging the transfers, so that you will lose as little as possible. The exact list of account level items that will move with this feature will be coming in a future, more detailed post in the coming weeks, as I get those details nailed down and tested. So this is good. For a long time, people have been wanting more things to be transferable, and they're looking into making that happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely a good thing.
One reason that it took me so long to transfer to Landrival, or like deciding to transfer to Landrival, was because I could not bring over my wardrobe, which, as you know, is like a really big deal for me. So, like, when I did finally decide to transfer to Landrival, it did kind of suck because it was really expensive. It was $25 just to bring over one character, and I couldn't bring over mithril coins. I couldn't bring over skirmish medallions or skirmish marks. Couldn't bring over my wardrobe. Couldn't bring over shared storage stuff. So, the fact that they're talking about opening up those kind of items to be server transferable is definitely a big plus for this whole system.
All right. Anyone else have any other comments on this matter?
I think that it's based on my experience on some smaller servers. I think that this needs to happen. And so I'm glad that they have this plan, and I'm also glad that they're upgrading their servers as well, so that more players will be able to still play on these less number of servers.
All right, very well. Now, one thing I do want to add on this matter before people, I know some people panic whenever they hear the concept of closing servers and the like, but I should note that DDO quite a number of years back ago did have server mergers, and the game has continued quite healthily since that time.
Yeah, World of Warcraft had server merges.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, so I mean it's
Yeah, and Rip just did it not too long ago too.
So it's not at all unheard of. And I mean, look at World of Warcraft. It's almost back to its peak, if not already passed, based on their most recent report. It's been a while, but if their growth continued, they might already be past the most that they've ever had. And they had server merges, so I wouldn't worry too much about this. It does sound like they're upgrading the servers, so clearly they spent some money to make this happen. It's not like they're just closing down servers.
In fact, one of the things I'm thinking is that they're buying all this new equipment, and I suspect that they are going to be getting this new equipment, installing it at the new data centers. They're not going to be installing them in Massachusetts and then moving them somewhere else. That they're going to put them in their new data centers when they get the new equipment, and that's probably going to tell them how many and how expensive it is probably going to tell them how many servers they can afford to have after the fact.
Yep.
All right, let's go into store sales then.
Free sample of the week through January 15th is a sturdy steel key. You get one key, but this time you can use the coupon code twice per account. It was brought out in the comments on the store post that you could do this, and I logged in and tested it just to make sure that it did work. And yes, for some reason, it says on the LOTRO page you can only do it once, but you can use it twice per account. Your coupon code is SSK88. SSK88, and that'll get you one sturdy steel key, but you can use it twice per account. 20% off the following items this week in the store: Milestone Skills, Hurried and Returning Traveler, the Riding Traits, and the Simple Rally Horn.
Things that get you around.
Barnabas in the chat, back to our previous server discussion, does say, I've noticed that there has been more lag than usual in the past few weeks. Hopefully won't have a large laggy server. So, it is possible with these server upgrades, there could be less lag.
Well, the question is whether the lag is due to population or if it's due to old server
Mm-hmm.
technology, or if I don't know where Barnabas lives. If he lives in New England, then it leaves out the possibility of internet traffic that's between him and the
Yep.
and the location. If he lives in California, then that could be the reason why they're trying to centralize the servers.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when the advantage, because right now the servers are so close to Turbine, if there's a lag problem, they never notice it because they're right next to the servers.
Yep.
All right, let's go to the site news. Our first item here is Family Line Part 26, I Am Theomin. And considering the theme of this, that's quite a, the theme of the entire storyline, that's quite a title. And this continues along the way. Now, unfortunately, this is one of those storylines I've always been slow in getting into fan fiction. And it wasn't until this week where I finally decided to get down and start reading this thing.
Really? You've
I've gotten
been
through
talking about it
17.
this long, Pineleaf, and
Yeah, I know. Well, I've got through 17 parts this week.
Wow.
So I'm hoping to be caught up by next week. But so I know what's been happening up to the time around in the area of Helm's Deep and stuff like this, but I
And
don't know what happens when he gets into Eriador yet.
and now that you've actually read it, what do you think of the series, Pineleaf?
Well, it seems to be very well written,
Mm-hmm.
and it sort of pulls at you, wondering what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next, and if I wasn't, I tried. I was reading the episode 17 during the lunch break at Mizmoot on my phone because I had to go and get another episode in to see what was going on.
It's
So
awesome.
that's how compelling it is.
It is really good.
Now, yeah, so therefore, I recommend that for anyone who's out there. And anything specific you want to discuss about this week's episode since I haven't had a chance to read it yet?
Just it keeps getting better and better, Pineleaf.
Okay, I will know when I get through 9 more episodes, which should probably be by midweek.
Barnabas in the chat asks, how many shirts did you sign at Mythmoot?
None.
That doesn't surprise me.
What? Where were all the Pine
So
Leaf fans?
disappointing.
Well, the only Pine Leaf fan I met there was Trish.
But at least you met one, Pineleaf.
All right, so let's go into LOTRO video highlights. The Hunter fan trailer.
Yes, so this is the continuation of the fan trailers that were made a long time ago by Evan Artworks, and this one covers the hunter, and it talks about his prey and like all this stuff, and it's just an awesome trailer. And if you're a hunter, I definitely recommend watching this. It will put a smile on your face when you watch through this.
All right, very well. Then we'll go into Winterstock 2, Peace, Love, and Snowballs.
It's interesting
this-
pronunciation there, but anyway.
Yes, January 16th through 19th, that is next weekend, where it'll be at Thorns Gate in Langeville. And there will be quite a number of bands that are signed up here, including the Starlight Orchestra. And I know the Starlight Orchestra is going to be there because I'm part of the Starlight Orchestra.
There you go.
And if you could think of most of the bands that you have heard of over the time are listed. There's quite a list down in here.
32
And-
according to the banner here. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
32 bands in there, and these will. I know that our group has an hour, so let's say about an hour for each of them. That's 32 hours worth of music spread over a 4-day period.
That's a lot of time. I loved the first winter stock. I think it was a huge success. Um, it's actually a lot longer than weather stock now, which is crazy to even think about. Um, and you know, because it's longer, there's less players at times, but that means less lag and more easy to hear the music. And at other times, there's a lot of people here. So I definitely recommend if you did not go last year, or even if you did, return back because it's awesome. Winter stock is the new weather stock, I think.
Yes, except the weather is a lot colder at Winterstock.
True. Very true. But it's still weather.
It's a still weather, I presume. And so therefore, the Starlight Orchestra will be playing early Saturday afternoon in case anyone is interested in that matter. But I'm sure anybody else have any favorite bands they wish to plug?
Pie. It's a band.
Pie.
Is that a band?
It
All
is.
right then. All right, let's go into the LOTRO Player's Adventures, episode 45, Don't Tase Me Troll.
Yeah, there's electric trolls, and we don't want them to tase us. Okay? That's why the title's that way, Pine Leaf.
All righty.
Finally seems skeptical.
Now this, we actually we weren't successful, but we were pretty close doing the Tower of War thing, considering we only had 9 people. And we actually, used tactics, and were kind of serious for once. I don't know who decided to, make that happen, but we did pretty good, considering. And so, if you want to see us go through Tower of War Think and the 2-hour run that it took, feel free to.
All right then. And we also have a theatrical presentation, The Green Ladies by Molly Bayberry, and I need to get this marked to please remember to watch this list.
Because
Since I
this
haven't had a
one's
chance
a
to see it
good
yet.
one, guys. Anyway.
All right. Anyone else have any other comments about it? Nope. Then let's move on to Brax's pick. Brax, what do you have this week?
As you could imagine, with all of the news this week, there were quite a few posts out there with reactions to the producer's letter and things of that nature. This is one such reaction post, and it is called Exec Prod Young Ones by Sue Helm over at suehelm.wordpress.com. And Sue Helm, as he does, goes through a variety of things, including multimedia photoshopped pictures. He quotes the entire producer's letter and then has some opinions listed. But I really was pulled in by a couple paragraphs towards the end of the post that were pretty easy to skim over if you'd already gotten this far into it and maybe your head hurt like Ethelrose's from reading Sue's post to this point. But what he said was, and it kind of reminded me, is he says, listening to the community is one thing, but I do hope that they can also share some of their creativity, talking about the Turbine devs. Remember, they are creative professionals, and I really think their interpretation of the Tolkien world in game form should not solely cater to the demands of the crowd. We do not always know what we want. Indeed, I think any game designed with this methodology will surely only deliver a boring, mediocre product. I want a designer product that I can pick up, that is the game that I want to play, but also be surprised or shocked in a good way and end up exclaiming, amazing, it does do this and that too. I just thought that was a good reminder because we tended to pick apart, the producer's letter and the follow-up posts and all that. We want, listen to us. It's kind of a good reminder to know that, these guys get paid to do this. They have some creative energy of their own that they put into the product, and they kind of know what's good for a game. So just a good reminder for me.
Yeah, if nothing else will, get you dizzy, the kaleidoscope image of the producer's letter at the top sure will.
All right, then let's go into news beyond LOTRO. We'll begin with The Origins of Evil, Part 4.
Yes, and this might be the final part of the Origins of Evil.
Well, since it's about the death of Morgoth, I'm sure there'll be another lore series after that, though, since
I'm
he's
hoping
been known to
so.
come up
I
with another
I
one.
love these lore series. I absolutely love it, and I hope that it continues on. Iogro does a fantastic job.
All right, then. Now, the other thing in the News Beyond Lotro is that I was at Mythbooth today, where Corey Olson, he talked about a number of things, and one of those things he's talked about is what he's going to do now that Riddles of the Dark has come to its conclusion, since Riddles of the Dark was the companion to go along with The Hobbit. So therefore, he has made his announcement that starting in the spring of 2015 is I'll try to get as close to his wording as I can remember, since he was very precise in his wording, is we will start planning our own full-length screening of The Silmarillion.
Hmm.
Screening.
Yes, that is that's as close to the words as I could remember.
Now he tweeted about this as well. I was kind of following along on Twitter as this announcement was coming out.
Right.
Now, finally, if I don't know, were you going to go into more detail about this, or were you going to
Yes,
leave it at that?
yeah, I will say that the whole thing is the key word here is planning. The whole thing is to plan out everything you would do as if it were actually being done, but they're not actually going to be doing it, and they don't have to care about things like the realities of producers and studios and their demands and such things like that. They would do it if they had unlimited budget and could do anything they want, since it's
So
not really
wait,
going to happen.
I'm confused. What?
There,
So
but
are they making a movie or just
no.
pretending that there is
No,
a
Okay,
it'll
movie?
be a
so
podcast that they'll be doing on making the plans on what they will do if they were preparing this. But they're not actually going to be creating anything like this, since
yeah.
they don't have the license for it anyway.
So yeah, here's the thing: is Riddles in the Dark is a podcast that they do where basically they try to predict what Peter Jackson's going to do with the films. What they're going to do with the Silmarillion podcast is basically just be making their own like best case scenario. This is what I want if it was being done as a film, and I think that that's really cool, and it actually sounds better than Riddles in the Dark, and I'm a huge fan of that podcast. So I am very excited to see how this actually is done once it becomes a podcast.
Yes. Right now, this fictitious series is turning into a multi-year miniseries.
Yep, it it would take a lot longer than the Hobbit series, I would imagine, but we'll see. Is there, did you get to shake Chris Pearson's hand while you're there, Pine Leaf? Did what happened? How did all that go?
I talked to Chris Pearson.
Oh, really?
I don't think he had any clue as to who I was, but it's an entirely different matter. The-
Disappointing.
but I did talk to him, and we did exchange what each other's favorite part of the epic story is, and his had to do something to do with within the Rohan area.
Okay, that
It,
he does really like Rohan from the
he really
interviews I've
does like
seen.
Rohan.
Hmm.
And my favorite is eventually when I thought of it, I eventually concluded it was the duality of Tau Mythadris,
Mm,
where you do this twice in opposite ways.
yeah.
And I really like how that is done, how you do, especially considering, I guess, despite the fact that Tau Mythadris is part of, I mean, the early parts of that book are is the worst part of the epic, I think. And I think that Tau Mythadris stuff plus something that happens in between those two, which starting at the Talmud Actors, that's when I think the epic storyline actually starts to get good for that book, because the parts of the book before that I thought were very, very weak. And I think that's what saves that particular book of the epic story.
Okay. He had a panel. Was that today or is that tomorrow?
Oh, what sort of both. He gave his presentation on there and he ran out of time, so they're going to have him finish it up tomorrow morning.
Was there anything interesting that you learned from that?
He was talking about his experiences in trying to build worlds. How he came upon it is when he first came to work for
Turbine.
it's well, I was looking for their original name. But they eventually changed their name to Turbine to it. But yes, when he first came to work for Turbine, there was a few years after that he came. They had the opportunity to do the Lord of the Rings,
Mm-hmm.
and they said no, there's no way that we could do this. So they decided not to do that. So that was, I think, in '97 or something like that. And when the opportunity came again in 2001, I think they began to regret that
Mm-hmm.
decision. And then in 2001, when the opportunity came up again, they jumped at it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it.
That's awesome. Any other cool moments or things that surprised you from Mythmoot?
Let's see. Oh, there was a nice talk in there about when they're talking about Widows of Middle Earth. Someone was giving us her views on Lobelia Sackville Baggins. You guys, first you talk about these elves and stuff, such as of these other ones, such as Luthien, and then Arwen, and then Lobelia Sackville Baggins. And the most interesting part of the talk, I thought, was the section on Lobelia.
Okay.
So getting a view of Lobelia like we haven't, because usually, the first thing you think of is Lobelia. Whenever she mentioned Lobelia's name, like everyone's laughing because they're like, how can? Because let's face it, Lobelia is someone who, during most of the books, isn't exactly what you call a character people love.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. The original name was Second Nature.
Okay.
Okay.
And I know you're going back tomorrow, but would
Yep.
you go back next year?
Oh, yes, I'm already thinking of plans for next year.
Awesome.
Are you going to have a
Awesome.
panel?
Well, I'm at least thinking of a paper.
Nice.
Okay. Awesome.
No skirmishes by Pineleaf panel.
No, it's not a skirmish one.
I want to see
No,
a
it's not
skirmishes by Pineleaf paper. Trish would get a kick out of that. You can write the other paper too, but skirmishes by Pineleaf would be awesome. Trish would love that.
I'm not too sure too many of them will take me seriously on that one.
You're the skirmish expert.
Barnabas
They would take
says-
you more serious than anything.
Barnabas in the chat says Pine Moot.
Yes, Pine Moot.
All right, I guess it's time to go on then.
I guess so. Barnabas broke Pineleaf, so we're good to go.
Let's go into donations. This week we did not receive any donations from Patreon, but we would love your support. To help support LOTRO players, simply go to the donations page where you could support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you will find rewards, including a mention on the podcast of your choice, or even a guest spot on either LOTRO Players News or LOTRO Players Adventures. And we also did not receive any reviews through iTunes, but we do have some featured comments. Fredalis left a comment in response to the new executive producer, and Etheros, could you please read that?
What am I reading now?
The first comment, Fredalis' comment.
Yeah. Athena Peters has been leading teams working on MMOs and online worlds for more than 10 years. She has spent the last 4 years working on DDO, with Dungeons & Dragons Online, in case people didn't know. where she had a good reputation for getting updates out. I'm guessing Piney, if you and Drac could talk more about her on DDO.
I think Drac knows her better.
Yeah, she was very active in the community, and if she would post something, just you've kind of seen it in the little bit she's been in Lotro. She'll post something, and then if people have questions, she'll jump right in right away and answer those questions. And I can't think of one update that was supposed to be out for DDO that was ever delayed or late. So
Were there any
Some-
parts of the update that were not there that were supposed to be?
I'm trying to think, and not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Based on her comments and the way that she presents herself in written form, it does seem that she's very on top of things.
And from what I can gather just from the forums, everybody on DDO really respected her and liked her a lot.
Awesome.
So I haven't seen, there was a few people here and there that didn't like her, but most of the community liked what she did for DDO. So I think it is a good thing for Turbine, or for Lotro, sorry.
All right then. And Flosson also left a comment on last week's show. And Sithris, could you please read that?
Sure. So Flosson said, 2015 dreams. War goats have the similar to heavy war steed. And racial trait for the other races to make drink or food, like the Bjornings. And 3-man instance of a hobbit having bad dream of crazy creature trying to steal the one pie. And also, lore master get a new pet, battle squirrels.
Battle
I
squirrels?
agree with these dreams. I support Flossing's dreams.
We approve.
That would be an awesome instance, having to do all sorts of stuff trying to prevent the one pie from being stealed. That'd be great.
All right. We did not receive any emails this week, but if you'd like to send us one, you could send it to podcast@lotroplayers.com. And you can also follow us on Twitter, The Players Alliance @PlayersAlly, Lotro Players @LotroPlayers, Andang @PvP_Andang, Braxwolf @Braxwolf, Sithrith @Sithrith, Draculeta @Draculeta_72, Etheros @Etheros, Lilykate @LilyKateBuggins, Mystery @MysteryXOX, and Pineleaf @PineleafNeedles. The Players Alliance has 3 live shows every single week. On Mondays at 8:30 p.m. server time, we have DDO Players News. On Thursdays at 8:30 p.m., we have the new home for Sithrith and Etheros, Guild Wars Players News. And on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have Lotro Players News. And you could join us for our live shows at lotroplayers.com/live. And you could also join us on Lageville for Lotro Players Adventures each Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you everyone for listening. That is all for tonight. This is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.